over the last year or two, there's been a massive consolidation in the video game space. The largest being Bethesda being purchased by Microsoft, but there's been a lot of activity in the mobile space as well. Square Enix is a big player in the mobile division as well. I think it's about 25% of their P&L at the moment, which is quite significant and growing. We had this report come through. So it actually originally came through, I think it was CFTN. So they basically do M&A activity, which is quite important for the markets to, get reports.
Can you explain for the general listener what P&L and M&A?
Yeah, what's
are?
P&L?
Oh well, I thought it's
I know
all.
what they are.
I thought it
but
was all
just
common
saying.
knowledge. I thought it was
What's
all
a
common
penal?
knowledge.
I don't know what a
it's
penal
not.
is.
So analog and super NTs, boot up animation. That's quite a common knowledge. So P&L, so profit and loss. So once you take all the revenue of the company and deduct the losses, you're left with a profit.
Hey, babe, do you know what penal is?
What was the other thing I said,
PNL.
Swinny? I don't even know.
M&A.
Oh, mergers and acquisitions. So that's a whole space in the markets which refers to, investing, divesting, merging, hostile takeovers, all this kind of stuff. So any activity around changing the ownership of a company and who owns it, who doesn't own it, things like that. So Square's share price actually jumped up really aggressively. I think it peaked at 15% prior to announcement. And then they actually were forced to bring out a statement. So in their statement, I read it quickly in full. Bloomberg has reported today that there was interest from several buyers to acquire Square Enix. However, this report is not based on any announcement by Square Enix Holdings Company Limited. We do not consider selling off the company or any of its businesses, nor have we received any offer from any third parties to acquire the company or any part of its business. So, Mike, you're not a buyer of Square Enix or this story.
I'll give him $350 for it.
So, what do you make of all of this?
So I think that there's been companies that are putting the feelers out, and that's where this story's come from, because this is essentially like PR 101. This is like what they call it, like a non-denial denial or something.
Yeah.
So it's basically, it's like they don't want to deny. It's like it's worded just like all PR. It's worded very carefully, but in this case, it's worded very carefully so that if it turns out that there are offers that come to light, they don't look like they've lied.
Well, the thing is,
outright, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if there's no interest, they can actually also say that. There's nothing actually against the law or regulations for them to say there are no parties that are interested in purchasing Square Enix. But they didn't say that, right?
Tell us what they said.
Well, it's simple. They said that they haven't received any offer, right?
So they said, this is the wording from Bloomberg, right? We do not consider selling off the company or any of its businesses, nor have we received any offer from any third party to acquire the company or any part of its business.
Sure. Just clarify, that's not the wording from Bloomberg. That's exactly what the state said.
That's what the
That's
statement
Square
was,
Enix's PR statement. Yeah.
So, I mean, people could have still approached them.
Yeah, but
right?
Companies also can say that we don't want to be sold, but companies can just buy them out from under them. They can go to shareholders and say, we're going to buy it for $10 more. Do you want to sell? And they can buy the whole thing. That happens all the time. Because it's a public company. That's the risk of having a public company. Essentially, someone could just go on the market and buy all the shares and go, well, I own the company now. I'm taking it over. And that's happening more and more so with especially Chinese companies, and then also a lot of Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds that they have so much money that it's like nothing to them. And Square, although Square's worth a lot, it's probably not, it maybe even Bethesda money, which is amazing. Look, the thing is, in 2 months' time, if Square's bought, this statement is still not incorrect. They haven't lied in the statement. Because an offer would never come early. Offers always come late in the process.
But they're saying that they weren't considering it, so it was almost like a hostile takeover.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Like you could get a 10-cent, buy them out. Easy.
That's it. That leads me into my question.
Well, yeah, the who's. Yeah.
And I was going to ask, do you think it's possible that Tencent? Because I don't see people talking about that with this.
Tencent would be the number 1, 2, 3 for me.
And it's weird because you read it, everyone's like, oh, Microsoft, Sony. It's like Tencent are the people buying up so much stuff more than... Obviously, Microsoft's been buying big, but Tencent for years has been making so many acquisitions.
But they're mostly, I thought, acquisitions in multiplayer / gambling / that kind of space. Where Square Enix, a lot of their huge IPs are... I guess it doesn't matter, right? Because they have the IP. You can use it for whatever you want.
Tencent's been doing a lot of mobile stuff, and Square's really aggressively pushing into mobile.
I guess they have been.
So, and they've got a massive IP list that they could take more advantage of.
Square's one of the worst when it comes to microtransactions and mobile games.
That's a fair point, actually. So maybe it's a perfect fit. There you go, Tencent.
I agree with where you're coming from, Swinny. It's like, it feels very one-dimensional thinking. And, we're saying this, and you know what? A month's time, Microsoft's bought Square. But it feels very one-dimensional thinking. Just going, either Sony will buy them. Number one, Sony doesn't have a lot of money. Like, they're worth a lot, and they could buy them. But to me, from a business perspective, what do they gain from buying Square? Like, the only argument could be potentially as a defensive maneuver to prevent someone else buying them and locking them out. And then you go, Microsoft buys them, but that doesn't make sense either. It's not like if they buy them, everyone's going to start buying Xbox in Japan. It's just not going to happen.
The only thing, and I think this would be like, this is very far-fetched, but is, the power play to kind of, some people are saying, and I don't agree with this, but that as a move to try to get Game Pass onto the PlayStation.
That's never going to happen.
How would that happen? Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, by essentially taking Square properties and putting them on Game Pass.
Yeah. I don't know if that's your view, but I think that's...
No, I just said it's not my view, but that's a common view that's out there at the moment.
Look, I think, they have a shitload of IP and games, right? So if they did buy them, that's a stack of games that go on Game Pass. Again, I still look at the whole thing and I go, for me, it would make way more sense for Microsoft to buy Ubisoft, and they'd probably be priced at about the same. Because that is something that where people would go, oh, maybe I'm going to buy an Xbox instead of a PlayStation if all the Ubisoft games are coming out to Xbox instead of PlayStation. Yeah. I don't see the other way around. Like, I don't really see it. Like, the Japanese market, they're just never going to go Xbox. Like, Xbox 360 did not do well in Japan, and that was like the pinnacle for Xbox. So, but yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't think they'll be purchased. But there's a hell of a lot of M&A activity going on at the moment. So you just wonder stuff like Konami is the one that really interests me. Like, is Konami going to try to sell their IP or maybe have a licensing agreement around their IP? And there's a lot of rumors about that, which we don't typically